Wes Lasavio. She's owner and producer of Faces West Productions. She's also a member of the Community Impact Committee and a Paul Harris Fellow. She'll be introducing and facilitating today's program. Jean?
Thank you, President Julie. We are still waiting for our one speaker, Yvonne, to join us, but in the meantime, we're going to move ahead. And I want you to meet Amy Shir. As a young girl, Amy endured the sting of classism every time she witnessed the way her single mother was treated differently based on where her family lived and the work she did. But rather than get bitter, Amy used that pain to fuel her passion in high school. Her political activism caught fire, and she began speaking up against racism, anti-Semitism, and sexism. That fire still burns today. And now Amy uses it to empower and connect people by shining a light on human potential, particularly for underserved community members who want to become entrepreneurial, to own things, and participate in the economic mainstream. Amy is the president and CEO of Home, a Louisville-based nonprofit lending institution that helps low-income and minority community members access affordable loans and financial coaching to pursue small business and home ownership. And Rotarians, I would encourage you to please put your questions in the chat feature so that when she finishes, we can have a conversation. Amy, welcome to Rotary.
Thank you so much, Jean. Would you like me to share a little bit about Home? Great. Before I get started, I really want to give a shout out to Lori Flannery, who's the vice chair of my board. She hired me onto this role and has been a real mentor and guide for me. And I want to really shout out to Lori and the team at New Directions Housing Corporation, and also to Alice Bridges, who's an investor in Home and major light for us. So Home is a CDFI. It's a community development financial institution, and Louisville is really underinvested in these things. Compared to our peer cities, the St. Louis Fed has shown that we really are not, have not been leveraging federal dollars for CDFIs. And what a CDFI does is it basically bridges a gap between predatory lenders, which proliferate primarily in low to moderate income neighborhoods, and financial institutions. And as you all probably know, not everyone in this town has access to good banks and credit unions. And so the predators show up on those blocks, and when you get into a pinch and you need a payday loan, they create debt traps, and people are harmed by these predatory lenders. So CDFIs were developed in about 1994 as a way to really build capacity for our underestimated community members who lack the access to affordable capital and who have dreams of ownership, small business ownership, home ownership, and they want to build wealth, and they just haven't had access to affordable capital and financial coaching and a lot of the things that our community has access to east of the 9th Street Divide. So I'm really honored that I got to take the reins of this thing and get us certified by the CDFI fund at the US Treasury. And in the last 3 years, we have deployed more than $3 million, primarily of microloans, small loans for small business owners, primarily Black small business owners, and to about 220 borrowers. And what I want to say to you is the philanthropic community has been so beautiful, because I think we're a light during some dark times this year. In particular, we really pivoted during COVID. You know, if any of you think about what makes Louisville, Louisville, keeping Louisville weird is part of what makes Louisville, Louisville, and we need our small businesses to thrive through this pandemic. And so I was very worried that our minority-owned small businesses and woman-owned small businesses were not going to access the federal funds, those PPP loans and grants and EIDL funds out of the SPA. I was really worried about it. And national media has borne out that those small businesses did lack access to those funds. So immediately I got to work with Bryce Butler and the city of Louisville and some other investors. And in 6 weeks, we put out more than $1.5 million of $25,000 0% interest loans to very small businesses so that they could pay their leases and they could pay for their people and they could have some breathing room so that they could get those federal funds. We had 10 times the demand for that small business continuity loan product than we had capital for. At the same time, I was really worried that people were going to go to payday lenders because they were going to, if you've noticed, single moms have kids at home and some of them have been hourly workers, so they haven't been able to work. They've been at home quarantining, educating their kids. And so people will go to a payday lender through no fault of their own, but if their car breaks down or if there's not insufficient food on the table or insufficient medicine in the medicine chest, you're going to go where the capital is, right? So we launched what we called a Lifeline Loan, and the Lifeline Loan was up to $500, and we paid rent directly to the landlord. We paid that LG&E bill directly to LG&E. We paid water bills to the Louisville Water Company because we wanted to stabilize our community members and not have them get into a debt trap. So we make an impact every single day, you guys, and I got to tell you, I get up and I feel so blessed to do this work. Institutional racism and redlining and urban renewal has really hurt our community west of 9th. And LHOME, 60% of our lending has got to be deployed in our low to moderate income census tracts. And most of those are in West Louisville, some in South Louisville, Newburgh, Shelby Park, et cetera. And so basically what we do is we connect beautiful folks with affordable, low interest capital so that we can help them with their business plans and we can help them build wealth. These are people who work hard and want to own things and just need a hand up, not a handout. So briefly, most of what we do are small business loans, microloans up to $15,000 for entrepreneurs. We also do working capital loans. So what we do is we listen to community members about what their needs are. And if the Louisville Urban League, it has a class to promote Black folk into, for example, affordable housing construction trades, then LHOME comes in with a working capital loan to get those people graduating from the class capital so they can buy the drywall and they can buy the equipment and supplies so that they can do the work. And then once they complete the work, they can come back to us for another working capital loan. And get this, we report to all the credit bureaus. So we are working with people to build their credit scores. And so as they build their credit, then we work with them to bank with, I saw Louis Straub on here, with Independence Bank, with First Financial Bank, with Fifth Third Bank. We exist to build the people's capacity through the access of this credit, and then we build their credit so that they can go to a mainstream financial institution. And I don't know how many people that you know have actually bought their first home without a good affordable mortgage, but a lot of people lack access to affordable mortgages. So we have this really cool program. We were the only recipient of the Reconstruct Challenge grant, and we got $300,000. And again, New Directions Housing Corporation, my good friend Kitty McCune wrote that grant, and they partner with us. So get this, we work with employers to provide an employer-assisted benefit program to onboard low-income employees into homeownership. And I don't know if you all know this, but a lot of our low-income workers are paying far more in rent and not building equity than they would be if they got into an affordable home. So, and I don't know if you know this, but we have about 22,000 more Black homes that we need to get to Black homeowners to achieve racial equity in home ownership. And the racial wealth gap is largely caused by a lack of homeownership opportunities for Black folk, again, because of redlining and historical institutional racism. So we've got this awesome program. We're working with employers like FMS, Facilities Management Services, and Blamer Food Services, and All Trade, and Save a Lot. And we provide a $2,500 grant for their low-income employees for down payment assistance. The employer provides $2,500 for down payment assistance. That's $5,000 down payment assistance grant. Then we support their low-income employees with homeownership counseling and credit building and working on the student loan payments and whatever it is so that they become mortgage ready. Then we insist that all of those employees save at least $1,500 because the bankers are going to want savings, skin in the game. So now you've got $6,500 ready for that first-time homeowner to purchase a home. And this is a game changer. And we modeled this on Norton Hospital's very successful program. So if any employers are out there want to include another employer-assisted benefit program, please talk to me. It's a great retention tool. And for those of you who have churn with low-income employees and you provide uniforms and training and people leave, this is a fabulous retention strategy. And then think about the social determinants of health. When you get people into secure, safe housing, they show up more, they're more productive, their kids have better educational outcomes. I mean, it's a win-win-win, I promise you. So please talk to me about that. And then lastly, I want to tell you, we got a fabulous grant. We're one of 31 cities to partner with Louisville Metro, and we now have a financial navigator program through COVID. So whereas 311 operators and 211 operators have very short calls with community members about how to access low-income heating and energy assistance or food pantry, food assistance or cash assistance, we now have trained financial navigators that will spend 30 minutes listening to community members about what their financial issues are. We have this fabulous database, and we are now, instead of expecting community members to make all these calls and search all over for websites for financial assistance on this and workforce development assistance because they just lost their job, we do that for them. And then we provide a digest of resources for them. This is a free service, and the press release is coming out early next week. So please look at lhomeky.org for all of these great programs, and also like us on Facebook at LHome CDFI. And lastly, LHome is a horrible acronym, and I'm hoping we rebrand next year. And it stands for, I'm going to take a deep breath, the Louisville Housing Opportunities and Micro Enterprise Community Development Loan Fund, Inc. Okay, there you have it. Worst acronym ever. But it implies home ownership, and we do much more than home ownership. We do small business ownership as well. So bless all of you for the service that you provide our community and our world. And Jean, thanks so much for chairing the panel.
Well, thank you. And you have given us so much food for thought, Amy, especially with the initiatives that we're embarking on now as a club. We have some great questions from Denise. I think I heard LHome support for home ownership is $2,500 toward down payment plus coaching. So the individual then has to get their own mortgage. How does that work?
Yes, and we work with, in our homeownership classes that we have the Louisville Urban League and HPI provide, we bring lenders to, and we bring realtors, and we bring home appraisers and inspectors and everything. But we make sure that the person is very informed about a good mortgage, not a bad mortgage, right? And then we bring access to lenders that are making good affordable mortgages for these clients.
And speaking of the Urban League, Rick wants to know, in addition to the Urban League Skills Training Program graduates, do you also work with graduates of Youth Build Louisville?
So Lynn Rippey is a close friend of mine, and we do partner with Youth Build, but we really could expand that partnership. So Yes, help us do that.
And by the way, Youth Built, if you don't know this, if you check their website, you can buy, am I correct, Amy? They can go to your home and build raised garden beds. And then they cost like $200 or $300. The funds go to Youth Built. The kids come out on your property and will build a custom-made raised bed for you and some garden benches as well. So go on their website and look at what they have to offer. They're beautiful. Just an aside. Julie wants to know, does L Home help in transferring the vacant properties, and what are the main barriers to help people become homeowners?
So the vacant and abandoned property issue is a really big issue. And I don't know if these are like cancer cells in every neighborhood. And a block that has vacant and abandoned properties has cancer cells that need to be eradicated. So L Home's place in here is, again, we have a community advisory committee, and all of you are welcome to participate in that. But community members, particularly in the West End, tell us what the needs are. And one of the issues was that there are people in those neighborhoods that have construction experience who needed capital to buy a vacant and abandoned properties up to $30,000. We provide a loan for them. And we're investing in the individuals in the community so that it's a major anti-displacement strategy caused by gentrification. Gentrification in and of itself is not a bad thing. But when we displace community members, it's a bad thing. So community members now can access a loan from us, and they are rehabbing vacant and abandoned properties, and then they can sell or rent them for affordable housing. And so we're putting money into the neighborhood, into people who live in the neighborhood, for the neighborhood, on behalf of the neighborhood, to create more affordable housing. And there are barriers, to getting those vacant and abandoned properties, and we're constantly working with Louisville Forward at removing those barriers so that community members who want to build wealth and want to have their neighbors participate in the economic mainstream have access to that.
From Rick, the club is considering working with Junior Achievement to encourage an entrepreneurial outlook among middle schoolers in West Louisville. Does this sound like a useful initiative? Do you have any advice for us?
Well, I'm very fond of Junior Achievement, and my kids went through JCPS and went to the classes. Here's my deal around financial literacy and financial education. I think it needs to be not a one-shot deal for a middle schooler that they go and they have an experience. My feeling is that a longer-term engagement with school kids to understand budgeting and banking and the importance of savings. I've been in the asset building field for 20-something years and have consulted all over the country. Kids that have a savings account, regardless of the balance of the savings account, are 9 times more likely to go to college than kids without a savings account. And part of the reason is that they now have a future orientation. There's hope in the household. There's a future orientation. And when the family and the child orient themselves towards building savings for that child and that savings account, their outcomes, the trajectory of their lives changes as a result of that. So my pitch would be, how do we sustain savings behaviors and longer term engagement around money management and differentiating what are needs and wants with the children and their families? I think that would be a very effective strategic move. And I think the Junior Achievement can participate in that.
Yeah, I'm wondering too, is that part of the school curriculum at all in high school or junior high? For instance, when I was in 9th grade in my economics class, we followed the stock market for a year and bought a house. It was very interesting. So do you know if that's in the schools, or is this something in addition that we need to provide those kids?
So that is advocacy work that should be done at the state level. Many states have mandated financial education classes in public schools, and I think that is right on. Because after you graduate high school, the credit card companies. If you're in college, you get the credit card offers and you get predatory offers about debt. And so many of our community members are upside down in student loans. So if you think about it, this would be a fabulous investment, is ensuring that our kids have access to these resources.
Another question about home mortgages, a challenge in West Louisville. Janice says she's heard that individuals in West Louisville face challenges to get mortgage financing.
It's true. It's very true. Part of the problem is, I've read statistics that for every 200 people in the East End, they have access to a banker. And for every 1,600 people in the West End, they have access to a banker. And if you drive around West Louisville, you won't see a lot of mainstream financial institutions, unfortunately. So there's a lack of access to bankers, right? The other problem that we have is something called an appraisal gap. So we're working with affordable housing developers who need subsidy in their houses because they may put $90,000 into a house and it only appraises for $60,000. So a lender is only going to make a loan on $60,000, which is what it appraises for, and there's an appraisal gap. So what L Home is trying to do is, as I raise capital, most of my capital that I raise, I do get loan funds and I get grants. As we get longer term capital, we can do what I'm calling micro mortgages. So these would be mortgages on an $80,000 or a $90,000 house. We would love to play in that space when we have longer term capital, but that appraisal gap is a problem and we need to address that so people have access to affordable mortgages.
And what percentage down payment is required for the average participant?
So, 20% typically is what a lot of people are used to, but we're cobbling together other down payment and closing cost assistance, which really drives down what the people need to put forward in down payment and closing costs. So it varies. It could be 5%, 10%. We're trying to not have people pay that, mortgage insurance and things like that and pay points. But we really do need to address this market, and inspectors will go out, appraisers go out, and they might use comparables from outside of West Louisville, and we really need to stimulate that housing market so that more people do have good comps, good appraisals, and that we stimulate homeownership. There are other problems, of course, in Russell, you see, we have a lot of very low household incomes. So this is part of a puzzle, right? We need to do workforce development, living wage jobs, and then this affordable access to capital is a part of the puzzle.
So both for the L Home and the Lifeline loans, are those loans paid back?
Yes. And what I want to tell you guys is, before COVID, we had less than 1% loan losses. So that's incredible. We are making risky loans, riskier loans than banks make. And we're primarily making loans to minority community members, and they are paying us back. Okay. That's very important to know. And we do have loan loss reserves that we set aside, 20% loan loss reserves. So when I raise grants and loan monies, we are putting monies into loan loss reserves just to make sure we have that. But people are paying us back. Why? I think it's because we are a mission-led nonprofit. They cry at our closings because they never had anyone say yes to their dreams for their food truck or their medical, firm or their childcare facility. And they pay us back because they know that we're going to help their neighbor and their family member and their church member. So they have to pay us back. And then what's critical with this is we provide technical assistance and financial coaching. Right now during COVID, we are surrounding small businesses with a warm hug and helping them do e-commerce and helping them pivot the way that they have always, operated so that they can sustain through the pandemic. I think that combination of financial coaching and technical assistance is critical. And then frankly, we have done forbearances. We have let people not pay us back for 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, so that they can have their footing right now, because we're not for profit. We're not I'm not incentivizing my staff to sell loan products for the bottom line. We want to build wealth. We want to achieve racial equity. So we're mission led. So we're not going to make bad loans, and we're not going to have people get underwater, and they're paying us back.
So starting tomorrow, we are facing a new round of restrictions for small businesses. Are you guys in a position to continue to help our small businesses?
Yeah, sure. So I listened to Governor Shir yesterday, and there's going to be a $40 million loan fund that the state has for restaurants and bars. So it's really important that we tell all our, and we have restaurant, we don't lend to bars, but we lend to restaurants. It's very important that we remain a community voice linking people to resources. And the governor said that the very small businesses can get $10,000, and these will be grants. And if they have more than one location, they can get $20,000. So our financial navigator program is so critical right now, because as people are in crisis, they can call our financial navigators, and then we'll know about these important programs. And then we'll also know where Home can help too.
And finally, can you wrap up with some of the business loans that you've made? Can you tell us some success stories, or maybe some that were challenging for you?
Sure. So Sweet Peaches is a client of ours. She runs one of the only sit-down restaurants in West Louisville. And I want to tell you guys this, I probably shouldn't tell you, but we have some other really cool clients coming that you are going to love, that are going to put sit-down restaurants into West Louisville. If you think about it, you have 65,000 people living in West Louisville, and they're eating in the Highlands or St. Matthews or in Indiana. So why not have some more, fine dining experiences? So stay tuned. You're going to love this story. We had a woman with a tree on her house, Jean, a Black woman. She owned her own house. She could not get a home equity line of credit because she didn't have equity in the house. And we made a home improvement loan to get the freaking tree off of her house. And we're doing a lot of home repair loans because the housing stock is really old in West Louisville. And so people are just paying so much for utilities. So we're working a lot on energy efficiency lending and home repair lending. So we have a lot of success stories around that. And then we just have so many small businesses. The Halls own Do More Delivery Service. They own trucks, okay? They started with one truck. They were making $90,000 a year. Black couple, they go all over the country. Their truck was in the shop. And for every day that truck was in the shop and they couldn't get a loan to get that truck fixed, their whole family wasn't earning income. So their son heard me speak at LCCC, Kevin Fields' shop in West Louisville, to people about our small business loans, and their son was in this thing, and he called his parents. He said, "Mom and Dad, I think we got something for you." So a $15,000 loan got their truck out of the shop and got them back on the road, and they have since bought a second truck. And we have a video about them. So we have some really heartwarming videos. Go to lhomeky.org and click on our Jennifer Elliott video. She's a Save-A-Lot grocery store employee and never thought she'd own a house. Wait till you see the house she's in the Portland neighborhood. And she feels she's a safety net who's generating intergenerational wealth for her daughter and her grandson because she's a homeowner. It will make you be a little teary. I promise.
Thank you so much, Amy. We appreciate your service. Julie, you think we can twist your arm to join?
Oh yeah,
be part of this. Before I turn it over to you, Alice Bridges, I want to thank you for the work on that playground. It's amazing, and thank you so much for the branding for the Rotary sign. That's awesome. Thank you, Amy. Back to you, President Julie.
Thanks, everyone.
Yes, thank you. And Kevin is a Rotarian as well. You mentioned him a moment ago about learning about your work through his organization. So, we're all connected, and just really, really appreciate all you're doing, Amy. And thank you, Jean. Now, a few announcements before we go. The Social Activities Committee, chaired by Kelly Burke, had a holiday party scheduled at the Louisville Boat Club. But given the rage of the pandemic, it's been rescheduled. This festive event will take place in December of 2021. And I just want to share with you how appreciative we are to the Boat Club for our understanding of our position and working with us on that. We will have a special holiday meeting on Thursday, December the 17th, with the Kentucky Opera performing and announcements of our newly elected club leadership for 21-22. And a reminder, sign up to ring the bells for the Salvation Army. Contact the Rotary offices to schedule your shift. Enjoy a happy Thanksgiving. We will not be meeting next week, but again, we'll be back together on December the 3rd with Speaker of the House, David Osborne. Thank you again, Amy, for an inspiring presentation, to Alice and Lori and to Jean. Thank you for a wonderful program and a wonderful event. So everyone, enjoy your great Thanksgiving. We'll see you next week. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.